We are resuming open session, and the chair is seeking a motion to call for order. So, anyone feel free.
You looking for a motion to open up session?
Well, the session's already open, so
Okay.
let's just go ahead.
So all you really have to do is take roll call.
Roll call.
Sounds good. Director McGee.
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Brooks.
Aye.
Vice President Kendrick.
Aye.
Director Graves.
Aye.
Director Townsend. Well, he might not be in yet. Director Carter, I think I asked already.
Yes.
Okay, good. Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Chair is seeking a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the.
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, okay. I move that we adopt the agenda for August 20th, 2020.
I second. I second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, then the chair will call it to a vote. Director Brooks.
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Graves.
Aye.
Director Townsend. Director McGee.
Aye.
And Vice President Kendrick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Now we are moving to audience comments.
Okay, this is former board member Waukesha Briggs. I have a comment.
Welcome, Ms. Briggs. Feel free to go ahead and get started. I will let you know that it's a two minute timing for being able to provide comments. So please go ahead.
So I'm sure I won't take my 2 minutes. First of all, I would like to commend the district and the bond committee for passing the $30 million bond. And I'm not sure if the board members were aware that there were 3 people that served on that committee. It was Cynthia, myself, and John Sharp. And we put a lot of work in to ensure that that was going to pass. And your attorney, the attorney for the district, was present during most of those meetings to make sure that the committee was adhering to the proper procedures and protocols, along with the architects and a couple of other people. So I do want to commend the district on that. And so my comment today is, what's next? When will the committee or when will the community hear about the plans on how those dollars are going to be utilized? Okay. I think that's very critical. My other comment is when I reviewed the last month's video, I learned that there was a decline in enrollment. And so I would like to know, or if someone can get back and let the community know, what are we doing to either, one, stabilize the enrollment and or increase the enrollment before we make plans to spend those $30 million in potentially buildings that may not be used if we do not increase nor stabilize enrollment.
Well, thank you, Ms. Briggs, for your comments. I'm sure that even in this meeting, some of the issues in which you brought up will be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
President Watry?
Yes, sir. Is that Mr. Reagan?
Yeah, this former board member, Mr. Reagan. I have a comment today.
Yes, sir.
I want to start off, I know we got 2 minutes, so I'm going. The Ruskin pickup, I'm asking if you guys can put some more police out here in our community. What is happening is they're coming out down Ruskin Way, and they're making it 3 lanes around Ruskin Way. So I'm asking that you guys try to put some more policemen. I know that you all have one more pickup tomorrow from 7 to 4, which is on Saturday. So this has been going in our community and residents for the last 5 days. So that's one concern. Number 2, I know that the Board of Education will be happy to make some cuts pretty soon based on the demographic study that the Board of Education has taken. So I'm hoping that the Board of Education will look at how top heavy you are at the district office. Also, you need to start looking at, you have 5 principals over at the high school, which is a very concern, especially if we are declining in enrollment. And then my last and final comment for today, and concern rather, is PIAC grant is for the community. And I noticed that the track has not been people have not in the community been able to use it. I was directed to go to the kcmo.gov to look at the mayor's thing on gatherings, but that is an outside venue and that's not a gathering. You still have to make access to the people that are in the community to use the track. They don't have to have access to park on you guys' property. I also work for the CDC, and we are stating that people, if they do go out on the large tracks, they can exercise. They can wear a mask if they would like. And also that's the same thing that Mayor Quentin Lucas has put on his thing too, because he gets the recommendation from the CDC also. So I do leave you all with that, and hopefully we will have some type of resolution to the communities on each 3 of those concerns.
Thank you again for bringing your concerns to us, Mr. Reagan. I appreciate it. Is there any more audience comments? Alrighty. Well, at this time, we'll move to 4.0, approval of the minutes. I would ask board members to comment if they were able to review the drafts for July 29th, July 30th, and August 1st.
Yes.
Yes, we reviewed it, no questions.
If there is no questions, the chair is seeking a motion for the approval of these minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes for July the 29th, the 30th, and August 1st.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. We will call this to a vote. Director Townsend? Director Graves?
Aye.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Kendrick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. We are now moving to 5.0, consent items. I believe 5.1 is the aspect of the approval of the consent items. Has the board been able to review the requested board action relative to the approval of the July 2020 bills to be approved, as well as the request for board action relative to August 2020 contracts to be approved? If there is no further comment, the chair is seeking a motion for the approval of these consent items, 5.2 and 5.3.
I move to accept the board actions for 5.2 and 5.3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, with no further discussion, the board will call it to a vote. Director Townsend? Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Kendrick?
Aye.
Director Graves? Director Brooks?
Aye.
And Director Carter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. On to new business 6.0, in which we will discuss 6.1, which is the July financial report.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Good
These
evening.
are this is the financial report as of July 31st, 2020. You'll see that the working budget, based on the preliminary budget, is sitting at 83 million. We received in 2.7 in July. And of course, that's the same for the year to date. So the remaining budget to be received for revenue is 80 million too. So we've received in 3.3% of the revenue. Can you scroll on just a little bit for me, Donna? And compared to 4% at this time last year. The next screen. These are the expenses. The working budget's at 80 million too. We spent 3.1 in July. Total remaining to be spent is 77 million one, which is 3.9% of the budget and compared to 4.6% at this time last year. This is just a record of the invoice for Cerner, and we did end up receiving payment on that third and final invoice. Can you scroll down to the final page of this, Donna? Right here. It was go back up one more. We received in $452,326.83. So that has been posted to revenue. So we have, out of the EATS fund, we had $1,085,000. So far, we've received $887,000 of that. So there's still $197 for us to draw on, and there'll be more money going into that in October. And then this is just the fund balance as of July 31st. We're sitting at a 16.439, 15.163 for next year, 12.7 for 22, 23, and then a 9.334 for 23, 24. So, and then the final slide is just the, oh, I forgot to take the interim out, but the superintendent recommends approval of the July 2020 financial report.
Well, the chair is seeking a motion for the approval of this July 2020 financial report.
I moved.
Miss, let's see, can we back up Miss Payton just one to the other page? Miss Wilson, something report, one more, Miss Payton. Oh, okay. Miss Wilson, is this the 6 million? What? That has nothing to do with the 6 million from Cerner, does it? Or is it? Is that the 6 million from Cerner?
Yes, this is the 6 million from Cerner.
Okay, okay. So, you say remaining 197,000.
In the fund itself, based on the taxes that they receive for EATS. So we get,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
that 6 million is based on that EATS tax. So that money goes into that fund every October and every April. And so it might not end up being 6 million based on occupancy. So, but that's how we're getting that. That's how that 6 million is funded.
So we have a balance of 5 million from the 6 million.
Yes.
Okay.
About 5 million one is left of the 6
Okay.
million. And the
All right.
5,112,000.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I so move that we approve the budget that's been submitted.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we will call it to a vote. Director Brooks,
Aye.
Director Carter,
Aye.
Director Graves,
Aye.
Director Townsend, Director McGee,
Aye.
Director Kendrick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to item 6.2.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The item I have this evening is related to the Literacy Lab Tutoring Services Agreement Renewal. The Literacy Lab Tutoring Services Agreement is an annual agreement between Hickman Mills C-1 and Literacy Lab to provide early literacy intervention programming and tutoring for Warford Elementary, Irvin Elementary, and Freedom Markley for the 2021 school year. For this upcoming school year, there would be 2 K-3 tutors at Warford at a cost of $33,000, 3 K-3 tutors at Irvin at a cost of $49,500, and 4 pre-K tutors at Irvin at a cost of $66,000, and then 2 additional pre-K tutors at Freedom Markley provided at no cost to the district through a grant that's provided by Literacy Lab. I'm sorry. Literacy Lab services include training and coaching and support for tutors that participate at each site. Each tutor would provide intervention support to identified students, focusing on key language and literacy skills to include oral language, vocabulary and meaning, concepts about book and print, phonological awareness, and alphabetic principle. The Literacy Lab tutor would also administer informal assessments to monitor student progress. The total cost for the 9 tutors is $148,500, $16,500 per tutor. Tutoring services will be paid out of building Title I funds. So these are services that the individual principals requested. The recommendation, the superintendent recommends the renewal of the Literacy Lab Tutoring Services Agreement for the 2021 school year.
With that being said,
I have a question.
I did. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Graves. I'll be after you.
I have a question. My question is, since we're doing remote and we're not sure if we're going to go or when we're going to go back to school, would it be right or fair to pay this $148,000 for the 2021 school year when we might not be going, but maybe the 21? I'm just concerned about that particular price for the time that you will be able to see students face to face. So will there be an adjustment?
Well, the services will be provided virtually. So all of the services are provided virtually for the students. So we had that conversation with the consultants previously. All of our consultants, for the most part, have had to adjust and provide services virtually because of COVID and school closures. And so they've already developed a mechanism for being able to provide the professional development for the tutors and the actual tutoring services following our school schedule.
Ms. Franklin,
I have a
They will
question.
connect with the students?
Yes.
Is that what they know, the students that they're going to get, or how does
It
that?
depends. Well, if it's pre-K, of course, those are new students, so they wouldn't.
Right,
But the other students, the principals and the teachers identify students that either worked with previously, if they had the tutors last year, or identifying new students that could benefit from the tutoring supports.
Okay.
Is it only tutoring for just the elementary schools? Did we just name only elementary schools?
This particular,
Uh-huh.
Director Carter, go ahead.
Because I was wondering, I didn't hear all elementary schools. I didn't even hear Ingalls on there. So I was wondering, was there certain ones that we are addressing? Or is there certain, how's that work?
Well, we will still provide our district tutoring. And so that Title I tutoring that we offer through the district would be provided at all of our school sites. So this is an additional service that building principals are paying for out of their Title I budgets. And so they can elect to pay for this additional support if they have the funds to do so. Some of our schools have an instructional para that they pay on staff to provide additional intervention supports. And then some of our schools just didn't have quite as much money available to pay for the supports. And so it is something that principals can choose to pay for if they have the title budget for that.
Okay, so this is basically certain schools are, it depends on the principal. If the principal wants that extra tutoring, then it comes out of their funds.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's really if they have the funds available. You know, some schools, just because of enrollment and numbers, they will have a little more money that they can use for certain things. And so
I would think, well, just my opinion, I would probably put all the schools, you know, all of them needs this. To me, it would be nice for all of our schools to have it, because seeing that the kids are still kind of behind their grade level, it would be nice that all of them have the same, you know, privilege of this. But sorry, it's just my opinion. But
no, that's okay. I mean, I think if we could afford to get everything we really want, we would. It's just a situation where this year, just looking at their title budget, some schools could afford this particular tutoring service. We still have our district tutoring that will be offered across all of our school sites. So that is still another intervention that will be provided. And then, of course, teachers, principals have also utilized their title funds to pay for a different type of intervention support. So it may not be this, but it could be staffing or another way of providing intervention.
I just have one more comment, Ms. Franklin. You know, it would be I'm sure there are a lot of students that are going to need tutoring. And it is my hope that as many as possible will get tutoring and not just a select few.
Let me just jump in for Ms. Franklin, you can espouse, and maybe we should have put that in the report. One of the things I think we need to be clear is that all the schools are receiving some sort of tutoring and intervention. This is a specific program. Other schools have other programs that we're highlighting because of the resources that are available for these particular schools. It does not mean that—
questions. I don't think that I mean, I hear what you're saying, Mr. O'Bean, but I think that as a board, we need to ask questions because we don't know, we don't have privy to all of these things. I know I didn't.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving you an answer to the question, that just to reassure people that if the school's not on this list, it doesn't mean that that school is not operating a tutoring service or interventions, right? So they may be doing it with a different program, not particularly this specific program. I know Ms. Franklin was trying to share that at the beginning to explain that this is on top of other initiatives that are happening at the schools. So schools are not being excluded from doing tutoring. This is just this particular literacy lab initiative that she's highlighting here.
Mrs. Franklin, I'm sorry. You look like you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to add that I do understand what Director Graves is saying, and I just wanted to share that we have added a few more tutors at Irvin for sure because of the services. They really felt like the services were beneficial, and so we do hope to continue to add more tutoring supports as needed so that more students can benefit. So that is something that we're trying to do. Previously, I didn't have to bring this to the board with this amount because we didn't have as many tutors. And so the company is also growing as well to accommodate all of the schools that are requesting services. So it's kind of happening simultaneously, but certainly we will look at ways to do that if that's something that schools would like to do. They have that option.
So, Ms. Franklin, I'm seeking some clarification in the sense of being the fact that this is open session. I want everyone to be kind of understanding. So if you can just kind of reaffirm my next statements. So with these tutoring, it comes out of Title I services, correct?
Title I funds, building
funds. Title I funds don't affect the fund balance, correct?
No.
Okay, good. With that being said,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's not a true statement.
Okay, can you clarify?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Please clarify.
Title I is federal funds, so it is part of our fund balance. It's just you have revenues that go against the expenditures that you get. and is distributed to schools based on their free and reduced count and their attendance from the previous school year.
Perfect. Perfect. So basically, as Ms. Franklin was stating, it had to do more with the aspect of the enrollment. Every school building is different, especially with enrollment right now. So the amount of funds that they get may differ, and with those funds differing, it's technically the staff and and building leader that kind of determine how they're going to distribute those funds to shore up their ability to provide education. Am I correct?
Yes, they do have options as to what resources or supports they would like to purchase for their schools. So they don't all have to do the same thing.
Okay. And in a sense, I guess my last real statement with this is, in a sense, it provides a sense of equity, making sure that each building has exactly what it needs to be successful, based on the numbers the number of students and availability of funds. I appreciate your presentation and your guys' thorough answers to our questions.
Thank you.
So at this time, if there's no further discussion or any other questions, the chair is seeking a motion for the recommendation of the renewal of the Literacy Lab Tutoring Services Agreement for the 2021 school year.
I move that we accept the recommendations of the Literacy Lab Tutoring Services Agreement for 2021 school year.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion, any questions that any other board members have before we call it to a vote?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the name of the tutoring company. What was the name?
Literacy Lab?
Literacy Lab, okay.
Am I the only one that doesn't have an agenda on my screen?
You might be the only person. Right now, it's just
apparently Miss Carter doesn't have one on there either. Maybe it's the B's and the C's that don't have it on there.
I'm just hard of hearing.
You got one on your Miss Carter? You have one on your screen?
Yeah, I can see on my screen, sir.
Oh, well. Okay, don't worry. I'm all right. Was a motion made, or do we already call for a vote?
We're ready to call for a vote.
Oh, okay.
So I'll go ahead and get you while your mic's on. Director Brooks.
Hi.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Townsend.
Aye.
Director Graves.
Did you hear me?
No, ma'am, I can hear you now.
Oh, aye.
Okay. Director McGee.
Aye.
Vice President Kendrick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0. Next on the list is 6.3.
Good evening, everyone. I have the next 5 items, and they're all kind of tied with special education. 3 of these are very closely related. So 3 of these, starting with this one, the Children's Center for the Visually Impaired. We have some of our students who meet Missouri eligibility criteria for special education, but they require a non-traditional program with intense services to meet their social, emotional, or academic needs based on their IEP. And the Center for Visually Impaired is specific to their visual impairments. The CCVI, or the Children's Center for the Visually Impaired, works with children with visual impairments, including those with multiple disabilities, so that they can reach their full potential in the sighted world. The CCVI works with children from infant to kindergarten age whose visual impairment is significant enough that it adversely affects their educational performance. This is something, again, that we've been doing for several years, that we've had a partner. And at the end of last school year, we had 4 students that attended the CCVI, and we are slated to have 1 student start this school year that requires this level. This is a program that is funded by the Early Childhood Special Education Fund, so it's 100% reimbursed through DESE. If you look on the next page, you'll see a range of tuition and therapy rates, and again, it depends upon the service provided. We are actually looking at the top one. We have our students that attend 4 full days. And so again, with the approval of the CCVI contract, it's going to allow our students to meet the needs that they have that's outlined in their IEP. And so the superintendent is recommending the approval of the contract for CCVI. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, board?
Questions?
Mr. President, I move for approval of the superintendent's recommendation on the Children's Center for the Visually Impaired.
Thank you, sir.
I second.
All right, the motion has been moved and second. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll call it to a vote. Director Townsend?
Aye.
Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director Graves?
Did you hear?
Nope.
Ms. Graves?
I'm looking for you, Ms. Graves.
Oh, here I am up here in space.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice President Kendrick?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0. Or yes. So moving on to the next item, sir.
The next item is again a similar contract. Again, this falls with one of the contract for our students that again that we can't meet their needs, and in order to have the least restrictive environment, again, it's not with us. It falls with another agency. This is the Sherwood Autism Center. And basically it is for children, it's 5 through 21 with different developmental disabilities, including autism, Asperger's syndrome, and other intellectual and behavioral deficits. It features a very small program staff of a 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 ratio. And its program emphasis on academics, activities of daily living, adaptive physical education, community-based instruction, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language therapy, and much, much more. At the end of last school year, we had 13 students that needed that level of service, and we start the year with 13 students needing those services as well. The tuition costs for Sherwood did not increase from last year. The standard tuition is $140 per day of enrollment. And again, there are additional fees if the student needs a little bit more than 1-to-1 assistance. There's an additional fee of $110 per day. Or if they need additional speech and occupational therapy, there's a rate of $65 per hour. This will be paid for with state and local funds and is budgeted in the student services account. So again, the approval of the Sherwood Autism Center will allow our students to meet the needs that's outlined in their IEP. Recommended for approval for the Sherwood Autism Center renewal at this time.
Dr. Skinner, I noticed the age goes to 21.
Yes, sir.
So that means that someone that's in our district can take advantage of this, because I don't think we have any 21.
We actually do, and with the student with an IEP, they can attend to their 21, and sometimes they do take advantage of the service.
The 13 that you mentioned, is that coincidental that it's 13, or is that the same 13 last year?
Currently, it is the same 13 as last year.
Okay, thank you. I'd so move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation renewal of the Sherwood Autism Center contract.
It's been moved in second. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll call it to a vote. Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Kendrick,
Aye.
Director Townsend,
Aye.
Director Brooks,
Aye.
Director Graves,
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Moving on to item, make sure I keep my numbers correct. 6.4 or 6.5, excuse me.
6.5, it's a little bit of a shift. It's quantum health contract renewal. In order for, again, a lot of our students to meet their needs in their IEP, we have to employ speech and language therapists. And very often we don't have enough that we can fill on our own, so we have to contract with an outside agency. Quantum Health provides various long-term therapeutic professionals to assist with our staffing needs, and we have been using them in the past to fill positions such as speech language, occupational therapists, school psychologists. And as we assessed our needs in the upcoming year, it was determined necessary that we continue this partnership.
Okay, all right.
Point of order, sorry, Dr. Skinner. Can we mute?
I'm sorry.
Can we mute our, yeah. Please continue.
We currently need 6.5 speech language therapist, and we have 1 school psychologist that also is needed. Last year, we actually had an OT, but we were able to hire an OT. So again, there's been a little bit of shift, and we need a school psychologist this year. So this contract would ensure that we're able to meet all the legal requirements of our students' IEPs in the area of speech and language, as well as having our additional school psychologists at this time. The contract rate guarantees that we will have 6.5 SLPs, as well as the school psychologist. The hourly rate for the speech language is $64 per hour, and the school psychologist is $70 per hour. At this time, we do need these positions because they're very difficult to fill, and we did advertise for these, and we just didn't have anybody that actually applied that we were able to fill the positions with, but we still need them. So again, it's just the superintendent's recommended that we continue with our quantum contract so that we can actually fill these very, very hard to fill positions.
I have a question, Dr. Skinner. The previous contract on autism as well as this one, are these services provided on campus or at the location of the contracting service, contracting service?
Well, it's a kind of a mix. The quantum are professionals that come onto our site, and they provide them with us, and this year they'll be providing them virtually. When you look at like Sherwood and CCVI, those are actually at site. So it is kind of a combination. And I have another one that's going to be coming up pretty soon that will also be at site. But for the quantum contract, these individuals will come and work with us on our school premises.
But how can they do these on virtual, especially on the autism?
It's basically working with the Zoom that they will go ahead and partner, especially with the speech. It's actually one of the easier ones to do virtually, to be honest. And then there are some that we're also going to be at some point, some of the testing, like for instance, for the school psychologist, there is going to be a point where we're going to need to bring students on site to finish testing.
Is there any further questions from my colleagues?
I move that we renew the quantum health contract.
It's been moved in second. Is there any further discussion? If not, we can call it to a vote. Director Carter?
Aye, sorry.
No, you're fine. Director Graves?
Aye.
Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director Townsend?
Aye.
Vice President Kendrick?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Moving on to item 6.6.
Okay. This, again, is tied with everything else with our special education. This is the adoption of our local compliance plan. All public agencies have to adopt a local compliance plan by October 1st. Any federal regulations implementing Part B are required to do this. And of course, school districts are a public agency. So with our policies, procedures, and programs, we want to make sure that they're consistent with state and federal guidelines and regulations. So the document that I'm talking about is actually, even though it's called the Local Compliance Plan, it's also known as the Local Compliance Plan for Special Education. And again, we do this every year. And again, why we're bringing it to you is because it has to be approved by the governing board. There's no cost associated with this. And it makes sure that we're going to meet eligibility and ensure that we're in guidelines with the state and federal guidelines. And so basically the state has put this together on their website. We have gone through, we've marked which option, which we're going to use option A. We chose a couple other check marks on there to make sure that we're in line with what we do. And again, to stay in compliance with the state and federal guidelines. So we just need to adopt this plan for this school year.
So with that being said, is there any questions? If not, the chair is seeking a motion.
I move that we adopt the special education model compliance plan made available by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there is no further discussion, we'll call it to a vote. Director Graves?
Aye.
Director Townsend?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Brooks?
Aye.
Vice President Kendrick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to item 6.7.
And this is my last board item. Again, it is tied to some very similar to the others. This is another contract with an agency to meet eligibility because, again, it's the least restrictive environment for these students. And this is off-site. This is at their site. It is with the Rainbow Center for Communicative Disorders. It is for children ages 3 through 21 that have different disabilities such as autism, Asperger's syndrome, cerebral palsy, and other, again, intellectual and behavioral deficits. The program and works with a very small ratio of either 1-to-1 to 1-to-3, emphasis on building self-esteem and making sure it has a culture of gentleness to it. The Rainbow Center creates individual programs that are going to be based on the students' IEPs, and this helps students be successful every day, which is a high priority in many of their IEPs. At the end of last school year, we had 4 students needing to complete this level, and we have 4 students starting again this school year. The cost is $2,500 per month during the regular school year, and if extended school year is required, it's another $3,975 for those 8 weeks. And this, again, is paid for with state and local funds and is budgeted for in the student services account. By approving this contract, it is going to allow us to meet the needs of our students that need this level of support. So that therefore, the superintendent is recommending the approval of the contract with Rainbow Center of Communicative Disorders. All right.
If there's no questions, the chair is seeking a motion. There's a motion.
Yes, to me.
Sound like somebody moved. I second the motion.
I was gonna do it, but my dog keeps barking. I'm trying to get her out my living room.
You're okay. Go ahead and do it.
I move that we approve the approval of the contract with the Rainbow Center for the communicative disorders.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further questions, I'll call it to a vote. Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director Graves. Ms. Graves?
Aye.
Sorry. Director Carter.
Aye.
Vice President Kendrick.
Aye.
Director McGee. And Director Townsend.
Aye.
Motion carries. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6.8.
6.8 is me. Good evening, President Watry, members of the board. Tonight, the superintendent's requesting approval of the racial equity plan for the Hickman Mill School District for the 2021 school year. Some quick background around this. Back in 2015, after the Board of Education at that time had done some initial work around racial equity, they adopted policy ACI, the district's racial equity policy, which provides a guide for administration in terms of the work that is expected. For the past few years, we've engaged with Pacific Education Group, PEGS, as many refer to it, for a lot of those services and continuing the work. Based on COVID and what's occurred, the model in order to meet the needs of where we're at is going to look different this year. We have elected to work directly with a couple of the experts, the consultants that we worked with in the past 2 years around 2 specific areas. One is Deborah McKnight will be continue to work with the district and Dr. Skinner's team around what we call SPELL, examining our equity work when it comes to our special education students and our ELL students, the SPELL. And also continuing to work with Dr. Watson, who you may remember spoke at Convocation, I believe 2 years ago now. Started working with our students last year at Ruskin High School. We had a cohort of students that began racial equity work and their journey through that, and she will continue with that cohort. We've had discussions over the summer. We had a sense that a lot of this work may end up being virtual. So we've been very strategic in working with them on how that will look and how that will carry out. Obviously, you know, our teachers are used to being in a Zoom environment right now, and our students also. So they'll be engaging through that model as long as we're in the status that would require that. We will continue an agreement with Pacific Education Group to provide beyond diversity. I had put in here initially that our normal licensing fee is $10,000, and that essentially saves us money, and I have that captured in here because we pay a consultant is $6,000 a day on site. We provide Beyond Diversity at least 3 times for 6 days. So that provides us a cost savings by paying that licensing fee, where Ms. Kelly Washington and myself provide that training. That has actually been prorated due to the current environment to $4,000 for this year. So I put in there the cost of this annual agreement is $10,000, but it will actually be just $4,000 this year based on the fact that we are probably not going to be able to look at providing an in-person Beyond Diversity until possibly second semester. So the recommendation is for the board to approve the racial equity strategic plan for the 2021 school year.
Is there any further discussion?
I move that we accept the recommendation for the, I'm going to say strategic plan, but the equity plan for the 2021 school year.
Is there a second?
I second.
If there is no further discussion, we will call it to a vote. Director Brooks? Before I go further with any calling this to vote, just a quick point of order. Board members, please make sure that you are visible in your cameras so that, as per the Sunshine Law, to ensure that when we are voting that you're visibly available. So, Director Brooks, Director Carter.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Graves.
Aye.
Director Townsend,
Aye.
Director McGee, and Vice President Kendrick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board.
Moving on to item 6.9.
Good evening, Board of Education.
Good evening.
You have 4 MSBA policies before you. They're actually up for second read. They came before the Board of Education in May and went before the policy committee before that. I don't know if you prefer, generally what you prefer that I do is just entertain questions if anyone has any. With regard to them, they are policy GDPB.
Attorney Johnson, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but would this be a second read, or because we have 3 board members that were not on the board at the time, would this be a first read or a second read?
No, it would still be a second read, but the board can, if they want to take them under advisement because they're new directors, that's certainly an option for you all to do. You have policy GCPB, policy GCD, and then there's an administrative procedure to policy JO. So you all have to tell me what your pleasure is with regard to these. If you want to go through them during this meeting, if you want to, if you've had a chance to review them and you don't have questions on them, if you want to approve them, or if you want them to go back to committee, if you want additional time, I just need to know what your pleasure is.
I would ask board members, old and new, if they feel that they've had enough time to be able to review these policies.
I've reviewed them. I'm good with the policies.
I reviewed them early on. This is just the reading. No change have taken place since you presented them back early on, have they, Carla?
No, they haven't. These are recommendations from MSBA, and most of them are changes because of House Bill 604.
Pretty much boilerplate. I mean, yeah.
Well, if
Are you asking for approval this evening, Carla? I didn't hear that part.
If that's your pleasure, yes.
Okay, then I would so move that we approve the policies in accordance with the DESI guidelines.
Is there a second?
I second.
All righty. So if there is no further discussion, I would like to call it to a vote. I would remind board members to make sure that their cameras are on as they vote. Director Brooks.
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Graves.
Aye.
Director Townsend.
Aye.
Director McGee.
Aye.
And Director Kendrick.
Aye.
All right. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0. So this next item is 7.2, working session meetings and policy committee schedule. In truth, this is more my category, in which I wanted to present to the board. After much discussion as far as how the board will move forward, as this is a new board, there's been much discussion regarding having a work session meeting. In other words, having a work session meeting and an open session meeting within the month. The work session meeting would take place a week prior to the open session meeting. at the open session meeting, the aspect will be that any committees, not just policy, but also our other committee of finance and facilities, would also would be that any items that need further discussion will be put on those policy onto those committees, and those committees would act as an ad hoc as needed. So with that being said, is there any questions or comments before the chair seeks a motion?
Cecil, I thought originally we were talking about a 2-week period before the regular meeting.
The 2 week there was discussion about having a 2 week break in between the working session and the open session, but there would be too many conflicts of interest amongst board members as well as amongst staff to be able to meet that requirement. By having it the week before, it allows the information to stay fresh in the minds of the board members as well as staff and the administration, to where the following week they will have the weekend to prepare for discussion amongst their committees. And then for it to be able to be fresh enough as the committees will be open session to then go into the open session that following week and present their findings.
I mean, for me, it's a conflict with my schedule, but you know, it is what it is. But we had it once before where we had 1 week in between. It just seems like it was really, you know, you were really rushed and you just really couldn't, you know, go into great detail. I don't know if someone had a question on something. I mean, it's like you can't work the weekend and call people and ask them a question about something. And then, you know, so now it reduces you down to 3 days of trying to get that answer to get back to the board. So in essence, you only really have like 3 days, maybe 4 if you can catch somebody on a Friday.
So if I can provide a little bit more clarity, looking at the schedule or just looking at the following month, the way that this would kind of play out is that we would meet Thursday, September 10th for the working session meeting. Then the determinations of what items will be, if any items were put onto any committees based on the work that was being done. If the work cannot be completed by the 10th, then those items would then be motioned and moved to go to committees. The committees will meet at the beginning of the following week to provide more intricate detail and inquiry on the items that were in question. Then upon the committee then meeting, there will be a 3-day period, or more or less a 2-day or 1-day period, where that information, which this discussion has already been had in its entirety, will be presented to the board on the 17th.
Okay, so I have a question. So we're going to be meeting 3 times out of the month. So we're going to have a worker sessions meeting, right? Then we're going to have our regular committees meeting, and then we're going to have a board meeting. Am I following it right?
You're following it right in the aspect that the information as well as the items that were discussed in the working session do not get met within its entirety at the working session.
So we're adding more. Actually, this is what I think I'm trying to come to a sense that when we had committees and we just did our regular board meetings, and then we had our committee meetings, and now we're going to add a worker sessions committee, which why can't we just do it in our committees meeting and then have our regular board meeting like we usually do? And like, because we're adding an additional worker session, and I'm kind of like, you know, Mr. Talisman, I have a job, I have school, and I'm sure, I'm not trying to throw everything out there, but it's time consuming when we can kind of see if we can eliminate some of that, and we can do it all in our committees meeting.
So
maybe I'm not getting what the worker session is. Maybe someone can, after we get off the call, they can just kind of update me on
President
what it is.
You got it. You got. I was waiting for you to chime in, Mr. Obeng. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm glad that Director Carter and Mr. Townsend spoke up, because I think this is precisely what we've been planning. We've been talking about, that we're going to list Ms. Barks to have a more robust conversation around committee structure.
Okay.
So I'm glad this is introduced, and we have a scheduled meeting in several weeks to talk about what would be most effective for this board, right? So I think President Watch was introducing one concept people to start thinking about, and when we get the facilitation of Ms. Barks, then we can talk about what would be an appropriate process for this board to function. Ideally, we want to reduce the amount of work, right? We want the committees to be efficient in terms of doing that. I'm hearing what Mr. Townsend is saying in terms of the number of days in between, right? If there's enough time for work. So that means I think that's worthy of having conversations in our work session with Ms. Barks. I know for staff, if there's work for staff, they want some time in between too. So I know that President Watch introduced this, but you're not really looking for a finality here, but this will be carried over to the conversation with Ms. Barks, and then we can kind of finalize in terms of what works for the board in order to function appropriately. What comes first, either the policy committee, or either the committees or the regular board sessions, and we can go through that in more detail. Because I think you probably want more conversation, it sounds like, from people.
And just again, trying to provide clarity, Mr. Townsend, I was able to review the days of yesteryear when you were on the board, and you guys had those working sessions. What the proposal essentially is to have that working session so that the majority of the work that can be done immediately with the full board as we vote as a whole can take place immediately without the easier items get addressed as quickly as possible within the working session. If I put this as if there are any leftover items that were not discussed to the board's satisfaction in its entirety, then we would ask the committee to review and provide additional information. That committee would then come to the open session and then provide that additional information so that so much discussion and time will be limited within the open session meetings. As it currently stands right now, even with the committees in which Ms. Carter had spoke on, it has to do with the fact that the parliamentary procedure designates that at the end of this, towards the future items aspect of this meeting is when we provide those additional items to be added to the agenda, which means that, or to the committee. So then what you have is you have those items added to the committee. Then it goes back to the committee. The committee discusses it in entirety and brings their recommendation back. When in actuality, by having the working session, you can eliminate the time frame and lean up the time frame by being able to discuss and vote and pass these motions within the working session. It is actually to eliminate waste.
President Watch, I think one of the pieces that I know you're trying to clarify for board members is that the committees would be ad hoc.
Exactly.
So what people are used to is having a committee meeting every month. So you may not have a committee meeting for like 2 months, but then an issue comes up with the board and says, hey, we want to look at, this contract, whatever. Oh, that's appropriate for the finance committee to go and do that work. So then they would do that work within whatever period of time that the board sets, and then they come back and then they're done. So it's not scheduled that they're going to actually meet every month. So I think it probably needs some more explanation. Maybe we'll draw a diagram or something for this conversation with Ms. Barks, and then people will get an opportunity to kind of really understand how, and maybe if we have some examples that might help for people to start the conversation, right? But we certainly want to make it more efficient for the board and not increase the amount of meetings that the board are having to participate at evenings, and try to be efficient and target specific issues that the board is wrestling with.
If I might, Mr. President, now that Mr. Obeng has said that, I get Ms. Carter and Mr. Townsend, I was a little worried like you are, and maybe some others are too. All I need is one more meeting, particularly when you're probably duplicating some stuff. And it seems though if this is a work session, rarely will you need to call the meeting or refer something to the committee. It'll be handled in that work session unless there's something that comes up that is more specific, like finance or like something with regard to now we've got this $30 million project going on. If something comes up there that Mr. Weekly needs to make a specific report to that committee, be different. But other than that, I don't see us meeting by committee too often. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't see it if we really take care of business during that work session.
Absolutely.
So what we can do is we can table not, I don't want to say table the issue, but what we can do is just have open discussion or get more clarification in the timeframes that we have when we were going to meet with Miss Barks, because the other side of that was also making sure that we have the most efficient guidelines for these committees before we start actually meeting with them. Now there are committees that have committee items on them, but based on our last meeting and the things that were voted on to be added to those committees. But the importance of making sure that we have those guidelines, as well as ensuring that every board member understands and comprehends and I want to assure my colleagues that this is the purpose of this request is to eliminate time waste, not time wasted, but to actually give you more of your time back, while allowing us to be more efficient with the work that we do. So if there is no further discussion.
Now this, Mr. President, this is a public meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So if there's no further comments, I'd like to move on to 7.3, which is the discussion regarding quarterly town hall meetings. Board members will remember that we had a discussion within our board retreat regarding ensuring that information is exchanged between the community and the district. Oftentimes we have audience comments, as we did today, in which we can receive the requests or the inquiries, but necessarily don't have the time or space to be able to respond. We want to ensure that our community is being able to ask us the right questions, as well as inform us of the information that we need, so that we have a clear partnership and engagement with our community. So with that being said, before I would like to open the floor for any board members to provide any inquiry regarding how quarterly town halls meetings will go, and what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts on the quarterly meetings is to address the concern of our stakeholders and teachers or students when they have comments too, so that the committee, the quarterly meetings, we can address that and give them the answers that they need.
I think I brought this up, and I think it would be a good time for the superintendent to make a report to the community on a quarterly basis, because people don't come to them. There aren't few. Nobody's out there, I don't think, or any citizens on this. I don't think so. I know it's going to be still difficult, even if we're in this pandemic issue, and how many people are going to end up tuning in, if you will. But I think this is not going to last forever. I hope and pray it doesn't. But anyway, I think it'd be a good opportunity for the superintendent on each of these quarterly meetings, and make not a brief, but a presentation, and take questions, and then open it up for as you said, Ms. Kendrick, to parents and to teachers and to students.
This also was a availability for our district to be more in partnership with our not just our community leaders, but also our representatives within our district, so that we can make sure that we are aligned and on the same page as far as the needs and wants of our district, as well as our community.
And keeping an open communication between the community and the board.
Right. May I share some thoughts
Yes,
on
sir.
the sideline? Because I do like the idea of increasing our community engagement. And I think as we go through the next several months, we can probably find some themes that might attract people to come in. Because people want, you know, we might start off with return to learn. How's remote learning? We want to do a presentation on that and then follow with questions. Because from my own past experience, I noticed that people come to things that they see that they might be interested in. So the board could think about things that they're hearing in the community or things that they're hearing from parents and say, hey, you know what, this could be a good theme in terms of publicizing this next town hall. And that might attract people to come out and not just come to tell us things, but also hear some information and then ask questions and then and have the opportunity to share other thoughts as well too.
Do we know what's the timeline in terms of how long we're going to have our meetings virtual? Because I've had some community members ask me about that. And in terms of, I know that some folks, I know at least for us, having a choice whether to go into being in the meetings physically or doing it virtually, but I know some members of the community are looking for us to at some point go back in person. Obviously still respecting social distancing where they can physically still come to a meeting if they're not as tech savvy doing a Zoom situation. And so I said I would at least bring it to the board where we would still have an option to do a Zoom or be there physically. But I know there are members of the public that are wanting us to go back to having in-person meetings. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And I believe that, I mean, one of the things that I want to make sure that we stay is consistent with our Ready to Learn plan. I would like to stay aligned. I would like the board to stay aligned with that. And I would ask the community to kind of understand the reasons why we want to stay in alignment with our own plan. And even as the board or even as the superintendent, in the aspect of being able to be virtual or being able to be remote or to be personally present. And it also would be provided that we make accommodations or assistance with those community members who are struggling with the technological issues that are happening, and ensuring that they're being able to participate and making sure that their concerns are also heard. So,
hey, I got a thought on this quarterly town hall meetings. I mean, what I worry about is getting ambushed by something and then someone answering the question wrong. And it's a reason why we have a 2-minute comment section. I mean, if we're going to have these quarterly meetings, I think we should have some type of where they submit questions and we can answer them, other than just let them just come out of nowhere with stuff and we may not have any answers and it looks bad.
I can agree. I concur with you. In the aspect of I agree with us as a board, as well as with the superintendent, solidifying a format that provides us the availability to be able to address community concerns, but address it in a way that does not cause outbursts. And even if so, that we also plan for the availability for that to even happen, and that we take proactive measures in doing so. And it's not to demean or not listen to whoever may actually be making a comment, because people are passionate. Mayor was shut down today in his city hall meeting, had to take a 5-minute recess because citizens were concerned. So it's not so much in the sense that I think that's more in the sense of an inevitability. But I do agree with you, Mr. Townsend, that we do need to be able to prepare for that.
Yeah. Can I just thank Mr. Townsend for saying that? Because I mean, that's what I kind of alluded to when I talked about having a theme or a focus. Like we need to be prepared to give, because I know one thing that community members will get frustrated if they think they're coming to a meeting, they're going to get answers. to something and they don't get answers, then they're like, okay. But if we identify a theme around an issue or something, we say, okay, let's do some homework. We're prepared now to have a conversation with our community around this particular issue and have all the right resources there. Then we can actually provide something they can go away and say, okay, I got something out of that meeting, as opposed to just sitting back and just receiving stuff that we're not prepared or have the necessary resources to give prudent responses for people. And the other piece, I think Mr. Townsend's also correct in terms of out of abundance of caution, in terms of responses to questions that may put us in sort of liabilities type situations, right? Depending on the topics. You never know. People come in and start talking about personnel issues or those kind of things. So that's why I said, okay, if we're going to do it, let's kind of really focus on, think about what the topic's going to be and try to stay within that. Yes, create a forum where we can gather some information as well outside those topics, but doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to give answers for those things that are not within the theme at that moment, but we can also do some research and find ways to communicate back. So there's some thinking around it, but I think there's some, it's worthwhile to think about how we can engage our community better. And Mr. Brooks brought up this strategy of town halls, and there might be a need for that, so.
Right, and then also like to address the comments today, like now that we know what their issues are as a board, we can discuss it in at the next quarterly meeting. We can address it, or prior to that, send them a letter or something to acknowledge that we are reviewing their issue and at least give them some acknowledgement that we are reviewing their concerns.
Absolutely, because I think that I think we all know that the community members who were able to present today are very passionate about their community, as they sit on this board as well. And what I think the goal, and understand that this is Mr. Brooks's brainchild, but what I believe the goal is to do is to be able to offer that transparency and accountability so that our community stays engaged with the things that we're doing, so that the more we stay engaged with them, the more they stay engaged with us. And the availability for making sure that we're able to address some of the things that are a part of our strategic plan when it comes to our community or our attendance and enrollment, which is topics that we've even discussed today, allows us to be able to address that, and allows people to also be able to stay in the conversation of knowing what we're trying to do to ensure that we're providing quality education for our students.
I'm actually really enjoying this conversation, and to Mr. McGee's point around, there might be other community members who aren't comfortable with Zoom and all those type of things. That we really need to think about different mechanisms to communicate with our community in different ways. Because some people just might phone, some people might write a letter, some people maybe want to just talk to you in some ways, and we can also think about having sort of the town halls could be regional too, right? You might say, hey, we're going to this community and we're going to have it at a school or something, right? In terms of where they can get to, and so we can actually, there's a number of ways I think you can think about this to, if the goal is to really to reach out to the community and let them know that the board is listening. So it's a good starter of a conversation around potential strategies.
So I believe what I would like to request. I would like to request a motion that the Board of Education agrees to the aspect of quarterly retreats, with the aspect that we will work with the superintendent on providing a format and a theme and a schedule that will meet the needs and shore up our availability. That's a really long motion. I'm trying not to, but essentially I'm seeking a motion that the board is in agreement that this would be an essential asset to our district to be able to provide community engagement. And what I would request is that amongst that motion, that we are able to have future discussion regarding the format and the process of it happening. So whoever wants to word that into a sentence, sure. Essentially, the chair is seeking a motion.
Hey, I move that we have theme-based quarterly town hall meetings under I don't know. Just stop right there.
That's good.
Under the
Theme-based,
direction of superintendent.
Superintendent O'Bean.
And I second that.
Does anyone else have any further discussion?
What was the first part of that, Brother Townsend?
Theme-based quarterly hall meetings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would hope the first one would be to introduce the superintendent. Now, I know that the convocations.
That's a theme.
Sorry?
That could be the theme.
Yeah. So, introduce the superintendent. And, that would be one thing, It might be the first thing. So
Is this something we need to vote on? I'm not sure. I mean, can't the administration just do it?
No. No, because in the aspect of community engagement, it does involve the board and whatever items are discussed. If it comes to a board action, or more specifically, someone is talking about anything that has to do with policy, the board will have to comment.
Yeah, but I guess I'm not sure that we need to have a vote on this, like a formal vote, because even if we come together as board members and say, as elected officials, we want to have a town hall, we can just do that.
Yes, but this is.
Or we could do it by consensus, but since there's a motion.
Yeah, I don't know that you need a vote for this.
I will ask my.
For example, I mean, Mr. Brooks, I know you were on the city council. If you and Chuck Eddy wanted to have a town hall, you didn't need to vote from a vote as a city council person to do that. You just did it. And there was a mutual agreement amongst your colleagues that you were going to do a joint town hall.
True.
The only difference in that is that you're talking about a district, just the 6th district, where it represents the whole school district. Right? If the council wanted to have something, then you have a vote. But I say you could do it by consensus. You don't have to have a vote. But since I have the floor, call for the question.
Maybe I'm being nitpicky. Proceed.
Yes, I call for the question. It means let's vote.
The reason why I would call the only reason why I would even call it to vote is because within our ethics it states that the board moves as a whole, and even as we're in discussion with the superintendent, even if it's not even necessary, I think it's a good look for us to be able to say that we're in agreement that this is something that our district needs.
If the look is important to you, it's important to me, Cecil.
Appreciate it. So
President Cecil Watry, President.
I think the question's been called for, Madam Counsel, General Counsel. The question's been called for, and this discussion.
Ms. Phil Johnson, you're kind of quiet.
I'm sorry. I thought you all had a motion on the floor.
We do.
Then I call for the question.
Okay. All right. So your chair, if you've got a motion to call for the question, you can call. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay. All right. So let's. If there's no further discussion, let's just call it to a vote.
Yeah.
All right. So Director Brooks.
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Graves.
No.
Director Townsend.
Aye.
Director McGee.
No.
Director Kendrick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-1. Moving on to moving back to 7.1 Board Education Retreat Discussion. Now, I will ask whoever is sharing their screen to allow me to share mine. Pardon me for just 1 second as I pull this up. Let me see if I can get where I'm going. There. So, at the end of July, we had a board retreat. And within that board retreat, we had plenty of discussion with the MSBA, MSBA's Phyllis Barks, who provided us with training regarding our roles and regarding our communication within each other. The reason why we're having this discussion is, and I literally allotted 20 minutes for us to be able to have this discussion, and I do not think it will take that long, but I want the board to be able to present that they understand that what their roles are and how they will communicate with staff. It has been an issue in the past, and for the staff that is on, being the fact that I want to apologize personally for the fact of making sure that I understood my role and how I communicate, not just amongst you, but also with the shareholders of our district. So I allotted this time for board members to be able to kind of show their understanding of the role that they're in, so that you can feel confident that they're governing correctly. I want to make sure that we provide you, both our staff, the administration, the staff, and the shareholders, with a clear understanding of transparency and accountability, which is often lost in government right now. With that being said, what I have up, some of this will be informative, and board members feel free to cut in at any time. But the aspect of this conversation, or more or less this idea of providing this information, is that we are able to show that we understand our roles. Ms. Barks what you see before you is what Ms. Barks had highlighted within our training regarding board members' ethics, which is our policy, BBF. Number 3 asks that board members recognize that individual board members have no authority to speak or act for the board. That would include any board member that is present. Number 17 states that the board shall act as a committee as a whole on all matters pertaining to the business and educational policies of the district. Essentially what this means is that although there are 7 of us, we act as one. Within bringing that up, jumping back to the aspect of what is the superintendent's role, which is presented before you right now, which is to implement board policies and regulations. Board members have only one employee in the district, and it is the superintendent. We are the policy makers of the district, as the superintendent controls the procedural aspects of the district. The aspect of what governance and administration has to do with governance is the board's role, which evaluating results, monitoring progress, adapting visions and goals, adopting budgets, adopting policies. You've seen that play out here. The administration's role in this aspect is to evaluate the results, monitor progress, implement operations for the district as a whole, have effective financial practices, and develop plans and regulations. At this time, I would kind of ask my board members to be able to express just one detail about what they feel is in their role as a member of this Board of Education. And I'll wait.
Well, haven't we kind of spelled it out there pretty much?
It is.
Yeah.
It could be as simplistic as elaborating or reading.
Okay. I think it's self-explanatory. That's written out there. Anything that we do outside of that, it's not the role of the board.
I concur. Brings me to.
I agree with Mr. Brooks. I mean, it's right there. for everyone to see it. So I think that I mean, it's right there. The roles are what we already discussed this before. So, I mean, it's plain and simple right there. Everything's laid out for us and we know what we should do now. And I'm glad we got this.
Perfect, because the reason why I wanted to make sure I posed that question is because Mr. Urbane had presented his directives within this training, in which an activity had taken place. In this activity that took place, it was pairing the strategic directives of our new superintendent with the strategic plan as presented here. What I'm asking now, board members, is to be able to take one bullet point and match it to this strategic plan and explain in your own words why. Like I said, I'll wait.
Are you asking the board to do the activity that they started in the retreat?
I'm asking for what, I'll be more specific. If each board member will take one strategic directive of Mr. O'Bing's and match it to one pillar of our strategic plan to present to those who are here, their understanding, their clarity, and as far as their understanding of the alignment of the superintendent's strategic plan, or the superintendent's strategic directives to our plan, and how Mr. O'Bing has done everything he can to ensure that he's aligned his directives with our already established strategic plan, which was voted on last year.
Increased student achievement and engagement is a part of accreditation.
I agree, sir.
Do I get an A for that?
No, it matches right there as far as accreditation, student achievement and engagement as far as academic growth. Yes, sir. Somebody else?
Increased family and community connectedness goes with family engagement.
Yes, sir.
And it could go with communication.
All right.
Yeah, either one of those.
Thank you, Director Townsend. Anyone else? And understand, board, I'm not trying to torture you, but I am asking for your participation. So
did we add communication to ensure the effectiveness? Did we touch on the communication aspects of it?
not yet. That's the next thing we're
Okay.
trying to get to.
Okay. Would that be ensuring the effective resource management alignment? Would that be part of the communication as well?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it would.
And then we did staffing with recruitment as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then the increase in student achievement would go under academic growth.
Any other board members who have not spoken, can they chime in, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm struggling with my eyes today, okay?
No, you're fine.
I can't hardly see. It's like I'm putting on my glasses. My eyes are burning, so forgive me. That's why I'm not chiming in. I'm trying to see.
Or I'll go for you.
Thank
Ensure
you.
safe, equitable, and welcoming environment goes with safe and supportive climates.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let's move on.
Ensure effective resources management alignment with instruction, support systems, structures, and accountability.
resource.
Were there anything else that,
Alignment with instruction support system.
So with ensure effective resource management, alignment with instruction, support systems, structures, and accountability can fall
go-
under, go ahead.
It can go with safe and supportive climate, or it can go with academic growth.
Yes, sir.
Go with accreditation.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I don't mean to torture you guys, but the aspect is that based on the reason why we had this retreat was to ensure that we all are moving in the same direction. I really appreciate those who were able to comment on this and be able to convey that by looking at this strategic plan, which all board members should be fairly aware of, and ensuring that we're matching up the strategic directives of our superintendent, our one employee, is important for us to be able to convey to our community. As this is an open session meeting, I want to ensure that this is that we speak on this. Now, I want to provide the board with the following scenario. Teacher was placed on a professional improvement plan by the principal following her summative evaluation. The teacher complained to board member Greg that the principal is picking on her. None of the other teachers have improvement plans. Greg asked the superintendent for a copy of all the teachers' evaluations that the principal completed this year. And I will ask those who have not spoken yet to state, to answer the following questions. First question being, is Board Director Greg demonstrating oversight, or is he overstepping?
Can I ask a question? Is this a repeat of our board retreat that we're doing right now?
It is a review.
Okay, because I'm just trying to wrap my mind around, are we doing the same thing we just did in our board retreat and we're just going over it all again?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
If you received your email, the specific items in which I've pulled up are actually I provided the board with the cheat sheet to know that this would be in discussion tonight. So the aspect of this is not for us to be able to convey what we already know, but to show those who are present that we know what we're talking about. So, is Director Greg demonstrating?
I'm not commenting.
I'm sorry?
I'm not commenting. I'm not commenting on that.
I can't hear you.
I said, I'm not commenting.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So now I'll ask Mr. McGee. Mr. McGee, do you have anything to comment?
President Watry, Mr. McGee sent me an email message saying that he had to step away from the phone for a minute.
Understood.
Wouldn't it be that he's overstepping? He's not allowed to do that without the full board. He should not be doing that role on his own, or he or she is
doing that role, period.
Right, exactly. So it shouldn't even be asking those type of questions or trying to get that from the principal.
Yes.
He's outside his lane.
Right.
Absolutely. Are there more appropriate ways for Greg to respond to the teacher? This is
take it up with the superintendent.
Correct. That's what I was going to say. Take it with the superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you. The reason why we're going through this scenario is because I think it's not lost upon any board members that or staff that might be on the call, or any shareholders that reaching out to the board with your concerns, we receive them. But we also want to make sure that your concerns are addressed appropriately. And we want to make sure that we're able to address it without overstepping our bounds as policymakers in our district, when the superintendent is the person who takes care of procedure in our district. So we we need to emphasize the aspect of the chain of command. So, and I'm gonna leave this up, and I'm gonna finish this segment, this 12-minute segment with this. The idea is that the reason why I'm bringing this to open session is because is the aspect of strengthening board and superintendent communication. The conversations that we did have within our retreat had, as a previous board member, and I can speak for myself, I had a misunderstanding of the board's ability to be to gather information or to be interrogative. The board is supposed to support everyone. And the only way that the board is able to support everyone is by being able to follow the policies and procedures that we govern. The board governs itself. So the one thing that I want to ensure of is that any staff or when board interacts with staff or communicates with staff, that they refer their concerns and complaints to the person that's most closely involved with the policy, which is KL. But also that the board also directs staff or anyone else who has concerns through the proper chain of commands. Does any board members have any questions?
Hey, Cecil, I think it's easier to explain it like this. When you take your car to the mechanic and you ask for an oil change, you don't tell him how to change it.
Absolutely.
So our job is to tell the guy, hey, I want an oil change. Or our job is to tell Mr. Bing, hey, we want this. His job as the mechanic is to do what needs to be done. It doesn't get much simpler than that.
I would concur.
You just wrapped up your 28 slides.
Yeah, he did. He did he not? And I don't mean to take everyone through the aspect of this being, and I'll unshare my screen now. I want to convey to the community that as we go through this unprecedented time, that the board is paying attention and making sure that we do things efficiently and correctly. We also want to make sure that all concerns are being addressed, as well as all policy and procedures are in line with us moving forward. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Obeng for 8.1 for superintendent comments.
Could I just
Yes, ma'am.
do a point of order real quick? If we could just address the chair correctly, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Kendrick. Mr. Obeng, I believe you're on.
Thank you, President Watry. Thank you for the review of the retreat. I know that I kind of wanted to comment on that as well too. I know your intention was for the community to also see that the board is doing their professional development work in terms of developing to become a high functioning board, and is collaborating with their superintendent in terms of their priorities as well as my directives, so we can ensure that we have success for our students going forward. So people hopefully can recognize that when they come forward, that we are working together as a district and a board to further the community. I wanted to just a few quick comments. I know the light's going on, but just to let people know that, just a reminder again, that August 24th is our school opening. I know we've sent a lot of communication out, but there's still some parents who are maybe not aware, and some parents who have not registered, but we've been receiving registrations on a daily basis. So encourage any parents who hear this message or hear from a friend, please go online and connect, or try to connect with one of your local schools, and they can give you direction in terms of how to get your student registered, so we can give them support starting next week. I will leave my comments brief because I know we've got a long agenda, but I do want to preview for people that at the next board meeting, please look for my entry plan, which will be part of a community engagement. And the board talked about engaging the community, and we're thinking about different ways to engage the community concerning this COVID that we can't have the traditional kind of town halls or forums and things like that, but we will have other ways that people can communicate with the superintendent through this entry process in terms of their needs and wants within the district, and of course their aspirations for our students. I have to say that in this past week, we've had our teachers have returned back. Thank you all teachers for coming back. We certainly need you. I've had an opportunity to meet with some of the schools as a staff group and to pop into individual meetings. They're meeting with students and also with parents, and great enthusiasm from our students who are excited to come back to school, and great enthusiasm from our staff who are eager and keen to go back. I want to share with the board that I've had lots of comments expressed from community members as well as staff, appreciative that the board did take our recommendations and make a decision on return to learn over a month ago, which gave them quite a bit of stability, understanding what's to come forward. And they feel really good about that in comparison to some of the things that some of their colleagues may be experiencing in terms of trying to figure out where to go next. So I think we're in good shape in terms of going forward. I want to formally thank all the individuals who worked on the bond that we just received. There were a couple of committees, a task force committee, a Say Yes committee, and all those individuals. We're going to certainly reach out and give a formal thank you to those people going forward. You will see information coming forward in terms of what that bond looks like, in terms of what we're going to work with that. So people who are in the community who are wondering, okay, we passed $30 million and what are we going to do with that? Please stay tuned to the board agendas and you'll see opportunities where you'll get information in terms of what's coming next. So stay tuned. So with that, I'll end my comments and look forward to some presentations from me at the next board meeting around some detailed information concerning our students.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Before we go back into our closed session, I'd like to suggest that we authorize the council to draft a resolution thanking all of those persons who assisted in the bond, and that it be a part of our that they get copies of that resolution, and that I imagine to make it kind of official that they ought to have a motion in spite of what Mr. McGee was talking about. But I think that we, a resolution just thanking them, and that Carla draw up something and send them copies of it.
You actually took the idea out of my head. I told Miss Briggs that we would address it at the end of the meeting. But as we get into future items, I will ask for a motion that we are able to provide those. More specifically, what you're asking for, and be able to present them at our next board meeting.
Well, Mr. President, then as it is, I would so move that the council be asked to draw up a resolution thanking those persons who participated in the success of our recent $30 million bond election.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All right. If there is no further discussion, I'll call it to a vote. Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Graves?
And Derek can take you home when you get here. Is he on his way?
Director Townsend?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Kendrick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. All right. Item 9.1, levy hearing meeting. It will be on September 24th, 2020 at 6:15. The regular session board meeting will also be on September 24th, 2020 at 6:30. The chair is now seeking a motion to go back into closed session.
Mr. President, move that we suspend open session and go back into closed session pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610, was it
0.21.
point 213 13 2. Is that all the right numbers? I don't have them in front of me.
I think, Mr. Obing, are you verifying those numbers? You look like you are.
I'm trying to.
It seems like I missed one. I got
313. I don't have it on my sheet. I think Ms. Payton may have it on the beginning of the agenda
It
sheet.
is, we're going back into closed session pursuant to 610.021, 1, 2, 3, and 13.
1, 2, 3, and 13. Okay. Missed the one.
No, I second that.
All right. The motion has been moved in second. If there's no further discussion, let's call it to a vote. Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Graves?
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're okay. Director Kendrick?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Townsend?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful night.